looking, and what I don't see is I don't see a Trinket Mage.
Yeah.
So it's just a raw Flight Spellbomb.
Maybe they wanted something like in place of a 23rd land. Be like, well, it's kind of land, kind of a spell. But in any case, welcome to round 2 here at the Star City Games Invitational in Indianapolis. I'm Gavin Verhey here with Adrian Sullivan, bringing you live coverage of the event all day long, all day tomorrow. We're going to watch a matchup between two decks, way different from what we've seen normally. On one hand, we have Josh Tabak's deck, which is like close to Kibler's deck that he's playing in Singapore this weekend. It's just an artifact-based deck. Leaden Mirror, Etched Champion, Phyrexian Metamorph, Phyrexian Revoker, Steel Overseer, Spellskite, Hex Parasite, Vidalcan Surtark, Mox Opal, Sword of War and Peace, Torpor Orb, 1 Torpor Orb in the main deck, Flight Spellbomb, and 4 Tezzerets, along with 4 Inkmoth Nexus in the mana base. On the other hand, Brian Demars with a deck that's been talked about a lot in hushed whispers almost, and that's this Twin Blade deck. That's the Caw-Blade deck, except instead of Caws, it runs Deceiver Exarchs, and it made room for 3 copies of Splinter Twin 2. So it can just combo kill you. It's a good way to beat the mirror match if you're going to be Batterskulling all the time. So who do you think has the edge here? Allegedly, Kibler said that his artifact deck beats Caw-Blade, but with the Splinter Twin package, who knows? It could be anybody's ballgame.
Well, one of the things to look at, he's got 4 Phyrexian Revokers main. We talked about the Phyrexian Revoker as kind of a weak tutor target, which I totally agree with. But what it is good as is if you're running it as a 4-of, as you said. And one of the things that you can do, you can put the Revoker into play, and then you name Deceiver Exarch, because it's the Exarch that has the ability granted by Splinter Twin. And so you can turn off the combo that way. Now, obviously, you can have that card dismembered or jaced or any number of other things, but you still low them down a smidge. Oh, look at this. Opening play, we have a Flight Spellbomb from Josh Tabak.
How scared do you have to be if your opponent at the Invitational, round 2 at 1-0, goes turn 1, Flight Spellbomb?
And we got a second land, and it's a Steel Overseer with a Inkmoth Nexus in play. Now, that's actually a terribly frightening moment, I would say. Second land for Brian Demars, giving him a Stoneforge Mystic.
Yeah, that's over. So let's see. So
passing it back.
Steel Overseer, Flight Spellbomb for Josh, Stoneforge Mystic for Brian.
And we go back to Josh. I see a Revoker in his hand. I think that might also be a an island, a Revoker, a... Yeah, there's a Revoker. He names the Stoneforge Mystic. And he lays... Okay, is that a Hex Parasite?
Yeah, Hex Parasite. So the little new card from New Phyrexia can just eat counters off of anything. So if your opponent plays a Planeswalker, you can pay a black/Phyrexia mana and X and remove X counters. He named Stoneforge Mystic with that Revoker. Once again, we were talking earlier in the last match about how if you play 4 Revokers, your opponent can play a Mystic on turn 2, and you can just play a Revoker, and then you shut off their Mystic, and it really slows them down, especially when they grab Batterskull.
We see a Terramorphic Expanse from Brian Demars, which says to me he's, you know, probably playing a 3rd color. We know it's in there, but Josh doesn't necessarily know that this is not Caw-Blade.
Yeah, I mean, I think if Josh is paying careful attention and probably fully figured out, like, why would you be playing that over, you know, Arid Mesa, Scalding Tarn?
Emeria Angel is a possibility.
But, I mean, over like, Scalding Tarn and Arid Mesa. But if Josh, like, he just sees, you know, a lot of players would see that and just be like, oh, whatever, Terramorphic Expanse, like, whatever, could happen.
Inkmoth becomes a creature.
And he's got Steel Overseer, you can pump up that Inkmoth Nexus with, bring it to a 2/2. Yeah. And the way +1/+1 counters work with lands, a lot of people, you know, don't necessarily know how this works, but they stay around. So when the land stops being animated, it still has the counter on it, and when it's animated again, that counter sticks. So we can hit for 2 this turn, 3 the next turn, 4 the turn after that, and which brings them up to 9 poison, and then one takes 1 more hit from any Inkmoth Nexus to finish the job.
So we got 2 poison now.
Yeah, 2 poison on Brian Demars. Josh also gives that Hex Parasite for 2 points.
Islands go. Island. The Flight Spellbomb waiting to do something exciting.
Waiting with the wings, as it were.
Yes. Somebody could go to the air at any moment.
We'll see what happens. So there's the mountain. The jig is up for
Look at
Brian
that.
Demars.
That looks like a singleton mountain, the way that he put that down in the art. Let's see.
3 mountains.
3 mountains. Ooh, I wonder if they're all that pretty.
Well, Brian Demars he's been playing a long time.
Yes, he has.
He plays a lot of Eternal formats, so he's got a nice looking collection, and I'm sure we're gonna see that on display here. I would bet all of his mountains and islands and plains, for that matter, looking as that gorgeous.
They look, and that's one of my favorite mountains. I know. We got the 4th land here. The Stoneforge Mystic is shut down, but he could cast a Jace, which would be scary. Also scary, though, he's only got 1 red source currently, but he could, end of this coming turn, make a Deceiver, and then follow up on the subsequent turn if he gets a red source with combo win.
And that's it. Once again, you can just win out of nowhere with this deck.
And Josh's resistance to that, it's all would have to be in play. He only would have in-play resistance to that.
Yep. Yeah, it's a rough situation.
Jace. Jace is probably going to be very unexciting to me, if you ask. Like, in this moment, the best I think he can do with it is brainstorm and let it die.
Yeah, he's going for brainstorm, and Josh doesn't even have to attack. He's just going to eat counters with Hex Parasite and get in for extra points of damage.
Yep.
Because the way
if he wants. The
way Hex Parasite works is it's a black, it's a a 5-red black mana, and then X, and it eats that many counters and gets +1/+0 for each counter it eats.
Yep.
So you could just pay 3 mana, kill the Jace, and make his Brian just concedes.
Yep. I mean, there was so much damage coming in on on that next turn. Like the Revoker was going to be a 5. So I mean, there wasn't much left in that in terms of time.
Yeah. See, we're finally seeing all these different artifacts come into effect here. Now that new Phyrexia is out, we've seen a lot of interesting combinations of them, and this is a really, really cool deck.
So Brian Demars has access to Crush, which is maybe useful. I mean, there's a lot of artifact creatures in there, but I mean, he saw a Flight Spellbomb, so
you gotta crush that one.
Well, well, what I think of when I see somebody running a Flight Spellbomb is that they probably have a lot of artifacts, period, and so I might consider bringing it in. Divine Offering he can bring in. You know, he really didn't get an opportunity to see much of the deck. Would you bring in Pyroclasm and hope to preempt the Overseer from doing its work?
Oh, I'd absolutely bring in Pyroclasm. Okay. I think it just kills so many important cards in Josh's deck.
Now, on the other side of the table, Josh did not see enough to see anything other than Caw-Blade cards.
Well, he saw the mountain.
He saw. I mean, it could be. That's very good. It's a very reasonable reason to look at Twin Blade as a possibility.
Yeah, I mean, he saw the mountain. Granted, you could think he just has bolts or whatever.
Yeah, or Sparkblade.
But in this day and age, I think if your opponent cracks for a mountain, especially at the Invitational, where players are going to have technology against Brian Demars, who's a very renowned, good player, I think that you can probably guess he's got Splinter Twins hiding in his deck.
Interesting. Josh Tabak has Hammer of Rune in his sideboard. Hammer of Rune is not as good as Manriki Gusari, the equiment that you could use to tear up the equipment of your opponent. But it's still pretty good.
Now a popular legacy staple. Dealers having a really rough time last week at Providence trying to find out Manriki Gusaris for people because they needed them so badly.
And other than that, he does have access to Spellskite. He's got some in the main and some in the board, so if he realizes what he's playing against... Oh, and there he's got some RTFC sleeve box there. But if he knows what he's playing against, the Spellskite can actually be a real problem. Now, Spellskite by itself, as has been talked about by many, many people, is not sufficient to stop the Deceiver Exarch Splinter Twin combo. However, if you're using it as a part of an aggressive strategy, making your opponent spend an extra little bit of energy to get rid of your Spellskite before they can win can sometimes be enough to just have them fall over.
Yeah, I mean, Spellskite just... I mean, some decks can kill it easily, but that's still a card they're investing in killing the Spellskite that they would love to target elsewhere.
A card and often a turn. Even with Dismember not usually taking up their whole turn, only taking up a small portion of their turn, it definitely can be one of those things that stops the turn 4 kill unless you get the Dismember on turn 2.
Yeah, and Dismember is, if you look at Josh's sideboard, like those Dismembers I think are pretty awesome in this matchup. I mean, once again, the Spellskite does eat something, but so a deck this fast, you just press the tempo.
Absolutely.
That's
and
what
then,
you want to do.
And then what if, for example, this Spellskite for some reason becomes a 1/6, or sorry, a 2/6?
Right,
You know?
exactly.
Like it put a sword on it, activate Steel Overseer twice.
It's totally reasonable that could happen, or play 2 Spellskites even, you know.
Yeah. Or play one of your 4 Phyrexian Metamorphs to copy a Spellskite. You could have about 3 Spellskites or 4 Spellskites. You know, like.
Yeah, we'll see what happens. I'm excited to see this Killboard deck in action. I believe he finished, I want to say X2 at the Grand Prix on the first day. So 7-2 I think is what Killboard's record was in Singapore. Let's double check.
That's correct.
Yep,
That's
X2 in Singapore. So he made day 2 of the Grand Prix. We'll see how Josh Tabak does here at the Stars of the Games Invitational. Also, of note, all these Torpor Orbs are pretty sick here in this matchup. It does exactly what we want the card to do. It shuts off Mystic and it shuts off the Deceiver Exarch combo.
This is true.
The way it works is Torpor Orb says when creatures' abilities, when a creature enters the battlefield, doesn't cause any abilities to trigger. Deceiver Exarch's ability is untapping or tapping a permanent, so it doesn't trigger anymore. The combo stops the work. So here we go. We see their opening hands. Looks like Josh's hand has an Inkmoth Nexus and a bunch of artifacts that I can't quite make out. I see a Splinter Twin staring back in Brian Demars' hand, and Brian has to be going for the combo here, right?
I think so. I see Tezzeret in Josh's hand.
Oh, that's a big problem. Alright, so he cracks Scalding Tarn. Yeah, I mean, I think this game, the way this matchup is going to play out is Brian can play the longer game with Stoneforge Mystic if he wants, but I think more the game he wants to play is the Deceiver Exarch combo game.
This round for the Standard Open from table 17 going to the Liliana
Let's see what happens.
Justin Warmington and Jerry Parton. And from table 64,
Action Pro. What you got?
Russ Murphy and Rocky Harris.
Okay.
Once again,
Is that a Phyrexian Metamorph?
So Metamorph,
A Hammer of Ruin?
Hammer of Ruin, Tezzeret, Swamp Island, Inkmoth Nexus. So only 3 spells for Josh Tabak here. That actually looks like kind of a sketchy keep in a deck that's this fast. Because it's 4 lands and a 4-drop, a 2-drop that isn't a creature. I mean, I guess you can eventually equip the Hammer Ruin to that Inkmoth Nexus, but I'm not sure I like that keep. Well, we'll see what happens. Looks like Brian's passes back to Josh. And, yep.
He's like trying to figure out if he drew his card from the Gritaxian probe or not.
There we go. Yes. Sure, draw your card.
Turn 1 for Josh, Island Goat.
Yeah. And I don't know, Josh's hand seems a little slow. We'll see what he draws, but there's a plan from Brian.
I'm imagining we're going to see an Inky. There it is. Inkmoth Nexus.
Do you think you lead on turn 1 Inkmoth Nexus?
Yes.
Then you serve in...
well, I mean, you might fear Dismember. You saw red, so you might fear that. But, like, there's so much colorless that you can do. I mean, having access to it, he's like, okay, Hammer of Ruin. What does that do?
Okay, so Hammer of Ruin, for those who don't know, +2/+0, equip 2 to play, 2 to equip, +2/+0, and when you hit them with it, you kill an equipment. I hear equipments are big these days, so Hammer's pretty good at hammering things. I mean, so the thing about that last turn is even if your plan is to play the Hammer on turn 2, playing Nexus on turn 1 just gives you more options or causes Brian to play weirdly by playing getting a mountain to bluff Lightning Bolt or something.
Is that a Setark?
Yep, that is a Setark. There's
Spellskite.
Spellskite. So Josh Tabak's battlefield right now is Vidalcan Surtark, Hammer Ruin, and Spellskite. He's also got an Inkmoth Nexus down there in the land column.
Now, interestingly, one of the things to recognize with the Setark is that once it's active, it can actually stop the Splinter Twin combo from going off for a turn. So, in response to them casting the Splinter Twin on a Deceiver Exarch, you can tap it so that it's tapped once the Splinter Twin comes into play, and it gives you a full turn to deal with the combo, hopefully.
Now, the thing is that works if the... it works theoretically, however, the way a lot of it times it's going to play out is at the end of Josh's turn, he's going to flash in the Exarch, tap the Surtark, untap and combo out. But if Josh were to say have 2 Surtarks, or maybe you wanted to tap a land or something, it could buy him a turn.
Or if there was like a Spellskite making it an extra little element.
Perhaps a Spellskite. Spellskite is good at doing that.
Or a metamorphed Surtark.
Yep. Yeah, so...
Players,
although, if there's a Spellskite in play, I think Splinter Twin is more likely to target Spellskite.
Oh, yeah, absolutely.
You may begin.
There's a Pyroclasm at the bottom of Brian's decks, just to confirm that he brought those in. And he
There's
goes
a
to
Batter
find-
Skull.
There's Batter Skull.
The ubiquitous Batter Skull.
So we'll see if Josh, what Josh has for it. Now, granted that Surtark is pretty good at dealing with Batter Skull. He's got Hammer
Absolutely.
Rune to deal with Batter Skull.
In his hand, I think there's definitely still a Tezzeret in there. I think there's a land, and God, I almost
That's the
there's a
+1/+1
Metamorph
counter guy.
and it's okay. And there's an Etched Oracle. Not Etched Oracle. A
Champion.
Etched Champion.
So Steel Overseer, Etched Champion, Tezzeret, and I think a land is what he's gripping right now. What do you think you play here if you're Josh? Just play Tezzeret?
I know Josh. He'll probably play Tezzeret, but I don't know that that's right.
Tezzeret seems really awesome.
He's a big fan of using his mana every turn, and so that doesn't necessarily mean that you should. Sometimes there's other plays that are more powerful. But I think he will play the Tezzeret. That's my guess.
Yeah, I like Tezzeret here.
What do we got?
Oh,
It's
he
slightly
doesn't.
off screen.
He just plays
Etched.
Champion.
Okay, I'm really happy with that. That makes me happy.
Oh, why don't you like playing Tezzeret here?
Okay, the reason I like seeing the Etched Oracle is that Etched Oracle turns on that Cetrarch, and I just want to have that thing active. It's just like another little thing that like can stop Brian from doing the work that he wants to do.
Sure. I mean, you can tap his planes in his upkeep, force him to Stoneforge Vial, then cut him off of some options, I guess. I don't know. Like Tezzeret is just so powerful. You can just go +1, find an artifact, or even potentially like make Spellskite a 5/5 this turn and serve in, which is pretty awesome.
Like right here, he's forcing Brian to do something or lose that mana immediately. You know,
Yeah.
like I like that play a lot.
I mean, I guess I'm also a player of the discipline where I like to use all my mana every turn, so perhaps I fall into that category too. Alright, looks like Josh drew another Tezzeret there. Well, we'll see if he chooses to play Tezzeret this turn. Notably, you can't Tezzeret Etched Champion because it's got protection from all colors currently. But if somehow one creature were to go away, one artifact were to go away, he could Tezzeret it. Alright, so instead he just plays 2 for Steel Overseer. So we can start pumping all of his guys up. Still no Tezzeret on the battlefield. See if what Brian chooses to do.
Now, right now, Pyroclasm would be so scary. Like,
Yeah, Pyroclasm is quite awesome here.
here comes the protection from everything not an artifact. Now remember, Batterskull is not the creature that's blocking. A black germ would be the creature that would block.
And that has a color. And also noteworthy is that Etched Champion is wearing a Hammer Ruin too, so it's going to serve in for 4 this turn. And an unblockable Hammer Ruin creature makes for rough times if your plan is to be equipping all the time.
Brian really needs either a Day of Judgment, which I don't think he has, or a Pyroclasm pretty much immediately.
Yeah, he doesn't have Day of Judgment in his 75.
Like, as soon as that as that Overseer activates the second time, I don't think Brian can win the game.
I mean, let's see. Even if he has Pyroclasm, he's still in a really rough spot.
Oh, absolutely.
I mean,
absolutely.
he's still facing down a Spellskite and an Etched Champion with a Hammer Ruin. Yeah, this is a rough position for Brian Demars, and Josh Tabak's doing exactly what he wants. Let's see if Brian has a way to get out of it.
Brian puts down the Batterskull after, or at the end of the turn. Brian draws a Pyroclasm.
Well, that's a good one to draw, but I don't even know if that saves him. I mean, once again, he's still going to have Spellskite and Etched Champion next turn. And he can play Tezzeret and turn Spellskite into a 5/5.
He can turn the Tezzeret or the Spellskite into a 6/6.
Well,
Because it'll be a +1/+1 counter on top of it being a 5/5.
Well, I mean, if you Pyroclasm, he's not going to have Steel Overseer anymore.
But it's active, I believe. Am I wrong, or is summoning sick? Maybe it's some...
he just played it, right?
Oh, okay,
He
okay.
could put Hammer Ruin and played the Steel Overseer.
Okay, I thought...
Otherwise, it would have activated on the attack step for sure. Yeah.
Yeah, it's summoning sick.
Yeah. So let's see what Brian chooses to do. I mean, I think you probably have to play a Pyroclasm, even if you don't really want to. I mean, killing the Surtar, killing the Overseer are both very important at this juncture.
I mean, you declare your attack. Here it comes. The hammer. As in bringing down the hammer, not Hammer of Ruin.
So did he attack with that Batter Skull? Doesn't look like he has yet, right? Life total hasn't
Did
changed?
he say go?
Yep, he just
What
passes the
the?
turn.
Okay, wow.
Well, I guess he's playing on a different plan right now.
I wonder what's in his hand. Maybe he's got like some like the Divine Offering.
I mean, the thing is he can't if right now. So it takes 5 mana for him to reuse that Batter Skull. So Hammer Rune's going to connect, target the Batter Skull. Brian can pull it back, put it back out for 5. If he casts Pyroclasm, then he can't put it back out this turn. Maybe that's a consideration.
5 mana, down comes the Tezzeret.
Oh, yeah.
I bet you that Tezzeret is going to make the Spellskite into a huge monster. He chooses the Oversoul, or the Overseer. He attacks with the Oracle, with the Overseer. I don't like that at all. Waiting for Brian to determine what to do with this.
Oh, Snowboard's just going to get into the blocking zone.
So he's blocking the Overseer. Takes a grand total of 4. Targets the Batterskull. He lets the Batterskull die?
Looks like Batterskull's going away.
End of the turn,
Okay.
Divine Offering on the Spellskite.
Okay.
I bet you there's going to be combo win.
Maybe he has it.
Except for there's a Cetrarch in play, which he has to tap now. Does he?
Yeah. So there's the Exarch.
Yep, there's the
But I
Exarch.
don't think he has a Splinter Twin. I think he's banking
Tap.
on drawing the Splinter Twin. I think that's his out. He's like, well, maybe I have to draw a Splinter Twin to win. Oh no, he does have it sitting right there.
There it is. That's
yeah,
it.
he's got it. Combo finish. And that's it.
Tang.
Yep, that's it.
Now-
Josh is in a pretty commanding position.
Well, I don't like that Tezzeret play. What he could have done is he could have cast a Phyrexian Metamorph that he had in his hand, copying the Spellskite, and then none of that happens.
Yeah, then I don't know how he loses from that position.
I mean, basically, once you have any kind of clock on the table, and he has the clock, a second Spellskite makes it nearly impossible for Brian Demars to win without a lot of action happening from Demars.
Yeah, I mean, that's the one thing is if Brian was just playing traditional Cobblade, he's in a back against the wall in that game, right? But
Yeah, it could. Go ahead.
with Splinter Twin combo, like you just win out of nowhere.
Yeah, I mean, it could well be. One of the things about Josh is not a hardcore constructed player. Josh is a limited player. Josh drafts all the time, and there's a reason that he won the first draft open that he played, and he sat down and just won it. And playing standard, I mean, it's funny because you'll be in Madison. Yeah, hello everybody. I'm Adrian Sullivan.
I mean, I'm Gavin Verhey. Where did the match go?
Yeah, where they're sideboarding.
Oh.
So one of the things that you'll see is like there'll be people that'll be like, hey, you want to play test? You want to play test? And a lot of times instead of people play testing, almost everybody drafts instead because there's someone will say, hey, wouldn't it be cool if we draft? And I think that what you see there is a result of Josh probably playing far less constructed Magic than you might otherwise expect.
Sure. Yeah, I mean, it's funny though. These the limited players got Flight Spellbomb hanging out in his deck. It looks like a very, very nice Scars of Mirrodin draft deck. Seriously, this deck looks really, really cool. I mean, he won game 1, was in pretty good position to win game 2, and then he got comboed out.
Yeah.
Maybe some slightly different play would have won that game.
I mean, I think that that with the draw that he had, and it was what looked to me to be a crappy draw, like Josh's draw, it looked like it was a crappy draw.
I think he should have mulliganed that
I think
hand.
he should have mulliganed as well. But with drawing a draw that might not have been that great, that it looked to me as though he was probably going to win it, except for the way that last parts of his game played out.
Yeah, I mean, the draw was kind of bad. It developed okay though. He drew the Spellskite, which was a pretty nice draw there. Drew
Yes.
drew the champion. But yeah, I still think I would have mulligan. Do you think maybe it's just that he hasn't played enough with the deck, doesn't play constructed
Well, I
often
mean,
enough?
the deck is new for one, right? I believe that the deck started getting developed previous to last weekend, but it wasn't finished yet. And by finished, I mean finished in the way that a new brew is finished.
Sure,
As in, finished enough for you to feel okay playing it.
Right.
Not finished enough that you're like, it's done, you know, put a bow on it. No, it's more like, you know, you're turning in your final paper to the teacher and you're like, well, I guess I'm turning it in. I'm finished.
Yeah, I mean, I worked on this all last night, right?
I worked on it all last night. 5 pages, 5 sources, done.
Yeah, exactly. We have it double spaced and everything. But yeah, I mean, this isn't Cobblade, right? We haven't seen this developed through, you know, months after months after months.
Right.
No, this is a new deck.
I would imagine that Josh might not even be aware that that Twin Blade exists, and he might be like, oh, he's probably playing Spark Blade, because I mean, like I said, Josh just doesn't pay attention to standard very much.
Sure, I mean, it's very possible.
Yeah.
Yeah,
But
I'm excited to see how Game 3 goes.
On the other side of the table, Brian Demars, strikes me that Brian is the kind of player that he has a definitely finished deck in his hands. You know what I mean? Like, this is a deck that I'm sure that the land itself has been gone over with a fine-tooth comb.
Yeah, I mean, Brian plays a lot of constructed. He's kind of on the opposite angle of Josh. And he's makes sure that his decks are tuned. He wants to make sure that he's playing an optimal 75 cards. And even though I think he's primarily an internal player from what I know about him, I'm sure he put his skills to good use for the Stars of Games Invitational. And Brian just coming off of a pretty good finish last week in Providence.
I see a Tezzeret in Josh's hand, and a mulligan, so never mind about the rest of it.
Let's see. So
on Brian's side, I see a Mana Leak.
And Josh takes the mulligan.
Besides the Mana Leak, I can't make anything else out besides land.
Is that a Batterskull, maybe?
I can't quite...
Oh, Stoneforge Mystic, Preordain. I think maybe there's a Jace hiding in there. But I don't think any piece of his combo, and his combo is one of his main instruments in this matchup.
I mean, the thing about it, though, is he's not reliant on the combo. The combo is like a powerful weapon that he includes.
Yeah, I mean, it's a powerful weapon, but in this matchup, I think it is a huge weapon because I think that's how Brian's going to win. Like, in Game 2, we saw that was his out. Like, I don't know if just Stoneforge Mysticing off for Batterskull is really good enough here. I don't know. We'll see what happens. So Josh picks up his 6-card hand.
Okay,
yeah, Brian
I see. It looks like 4 lands and starts off with the Exarch. Sorry, the Setrarch.
And then there's the Setrarch. Brian finished in 12th at Grand Prix Providence last weekend. So he's off a hot finish and looking to do well again this weekend. All right, there's Torpor Orb on turn 2 for Josh Tabak. That shuts off everything. Stoneforge Mystic, Exarch, it doesn't work anymore. So Ryan's going to have to find a crafty way to get back in this game because his cards suddenly look a lot worse. Torpor Orb is a card a lot of people talked about being good against Cobblade decks. A lot of people talked about it being good against the combo, and it is at its peak in this matchup. Now, Josh drew 2 of them, which definitely sucks for Josh because it's a card you really don't want to draw a ton of. On the flip side, he can play a second one, and he doesn't have to worry about getting into the Roiled.
Yeah, it's insurance.
He has all 3 in his hand. That's kind of bad.
Yeah.
By kind of, I mean very.
So, interestingly,
he only has 3, and he drew all of them.
Torpor Orb does not turn off the Metamorph ability, since the Metamorph ability is not a trigger.
Right. You choose it as it enters the battlefield, a very big difference.
Boom!
That's an awkward position for Josh Tabak.
And Josh is going to turn into a Icy Manipulator.
1 Torpor Orb, very good. 2, all right, okay. 3 on a mulligan to 6. It's like a mulligan to 4 cards, or 5 cards. It is brutal. And that's the problem with cards like these. You only want to draw 1 of them, maybe 2 of them. Drawing more of them is bad. Josh only sideboarded it into 3 just for that reason, and he had all of them in his 6-card hand.
Now, what he really wants here, he wants to top deck a Tezzeret and turn one of those Torpor Orbs into a 5/5.
And then turn another one into a 5/5. Have all the 5/5s. Man. And Brian just has a grip full of cards. There's an Ink Moth Nexus, a lowly Ink Moth Nexus for
That'll
Josh
actually
Tabak.
be a really big deal, though.
I mean, it's certainly relevant, but Brian's, I think, will have the tools to beat it. He's got a Colonnade that can block if he has to.
Now remember, these guys are playing. These guys are playing for a share of $50,000 this weekend.
Yeah, this is a lot of money at stake. And round 2, already off to the races. And triple torpor orb, not a good. That's like a stumbling over your own feet almost. So
take care of that mana there a little bit, says Josh.
Yeah, and I mean Brian has the Exarch in play.
Oh, Taz. Oh, Taz.
And that is exactly the card he wanted.
Land.
And he even can
and
pay
a
for
mana
the
for the mana leak.
He can even pay for the mana leak. Too perfect.
Now the thing is that Brian kind of wants to mana leak it because otherwise Josh can turn that that little Inky into a creature and then make it a 5/5.
Well, even the bigger deal is, I'm surprised he didn't mana leak. So Brian has Colonnade, and you definitely want to attack.
Okay, he's breaking it with something. What's he breaking?
He's crushing it.
Crush.
So crush on the Torpor Orb. Okay, so see, I don't like that attack because I think Brian's gonna go untap, play a land, Colonnade it into Tezzeret. I guess no, never mind. He's got Surtark.
Yeah, the Surtark is
the Surtark.
Gonna do some work.
Okay, yeah. Forgot about the little 1/1 that could. Well, we'll see what happens here. Now he's got the Pyroclasm to kill the Surtark, so he can kill Tezzeret next turn potentially. Josh is out of options pretty much.
We are currently taking sign-up.
Let's see. Do you think you just Pyroclasm here for Brian Demars?
You want that Surtark off the table.
Yeah, I think. I mean, even killing Tezzeret when it's at 1 counter is pretty important.
Yeah, I mean, I personally would have like gone for the Eggy Eggs and put it all in the the Inky, but after seeing that crush, what did he just cast?
Some blue card.
Maybe it was a Spellskite actually. Is it a Preordain? It's right underneath the banner.
It currently is where the versus is on your screen.
And he's drawing a card. Maybe it was a Gitaxian Probe, or what was it?
Oh, was it a Twisted Image? I think it might have been a Twisted Image. We have 1 Twisted Image in a sideboard, served it with the Exarch on Tezzeret, Twisted Imaging it into 3, dealing 3 to the Tezzeret. Very nice.
Oh, okay.
That's actually brutal. I bet Josh Tabak did not see that one coming.
Oh, yeah, that was a Twisted Image.
How twisted. All right, so Brian preordains, putting 1 on top and 1 on bottom. And cracks an Arid Mesa. So, wow, out of all the cards Brian could have there, that was the one that he needed.
How many copies does he have?
A single copy in the sideboard, and he had it on his Exarch to kill Tezzeret.
Well, that's why you run one-ofs. You know, they just like to show up.
And Twisted Image is a really sweet card. I remember, like, Michael Jacobs was a big fan of the Twisted Image.
Stoneforge Mystic coming into play, doing nothing but being a 1/2. We
being
call
a
that card Squire.
Yeah. $20 Squire.
Okay, down comes. Oh, look at this. He activates the Inky and attacks. He's got a Spellskite in his hand, which I might have put into play first, just in case there was like a Dismember, a Lightning Bolt. You know. No cards in hand for Josh Tabak.
Let's see. All right.
The poison creeps up to 2.
Yeah.
I mean, if you look at Josh's side of the board, he's doing no kind of real threats here, like in terms of a fast clock, and yet he looks to be solidly in amazing shape in this game. What needs to happen for Brian Demars is Brian Demars has to get a Jace into play, because only a Jace, I think, is going to give him the kinds of cards he needs to be able to push through this board position that Josh has.
Perhaps the Jace is sitting in Brian Demars' hand right now.
Did he just get a Jace from that Preordain?
There's a Jace in the front of Brian Demars' hand.
Oh, goodness gracious. Oh, boy.
Looks like his hand is, I think it might be all spells. Brian's got some gas, and not from the beans he ate last night. This is some good stuff in his hand.
Nice.
let's say I think he's got Mana Leak, Pyroclasm, Jace. Yep, there's
Boom.
Jace.
That is a real problem right now for Josh.
And there's the Mind Sculptor himself. So he's gonna go for the Brainstorm.
He's going to brainstorm. I mean, there's nothing that Josh can do with an empty hand that threatens the Jace dying.
No, but the thing is, if you're Brian, what are you looking for? You're just looking to naturally draw a Batterskull right now?
I think what you're looking to do is you're looking just to... Okay, Josh has a huge board presence that stops your combo from being realistic.
Mhm.
What you just want to do is bury Josh under cards.
Okay. Yeah, and I think that's fine. I mean, you have 2 Batterskulls you can draw. You have a sort of Feast and Famine you can draw that makes your guys bigger. I mean, you need to close at some point. You might have Consecrated Sphinx or Inferno Titan after sideboarding. Let's see. I don't know. See what happens. Looks like Brian's thinking about it, what he wants to do this turn. He could Pyroclasm and get rid of that Surtark if he wants.
So one of the things you can...
Loses-
Go ahead, I'm sorry to
lose
interrupt.
Mystic in the process.
If you look at Josh here, right, that body language that Josh is giving, he just even like put his eyes to this guy. he gave a little eye roll to his
I think
opponent.
they're looking at a judge right now, actually.
Well, no, like what happened though, like watching his face, it was totally an eye roll. I know Josh very well, play with him all the time. Like Josh is used to playing with really, really, really good players, like some of the literal best players in the world, and so he's not gonna get flustered. And he's in this position where he's got a Jace he's staring down, which is a real problem, and he just looks calm, even though he probably is well aware that this is not a great place that he's in right now anymore.
Yeah, this is a rough situation for him. I mean, game 1 looked good, looked great even. Game 2 he was in a really good position, but this game, mulligan a 6 triple Torpor Orb, not what you want to see.
He nibbles on the Jace. 2 mana. That is probably going to pull the Pyroclasm out of Brian Demars' hand next turn.
I think so it looks like Brian's had a Splinter Twin, Pyroclasm, maybe some lands. I think I saw a Twin there. Now, Twin doesn't do a lot with that Torpor Orb out. Is there any way he can make it awesome? If he draws this one Inferno Titan, it could be kind of sweet. Just
What do you mean, as a making 6/6 bodies, just period?
Yeah, you can go end of turn, make an Inferno Titan, untap deck with 2
well,
Inferno
I mean,
Titans.
first he has to get rid of the Spellskite.
Right. You don't want him to double up on Spellskites.
I mean, the thing that's so crazy about this board is that literally Brian is in this position where he has so many things to deal with that the only way he can actually deal with it is just by burying Josh under cards. He'll be happy to drop down a Batterskull. If he brought in Inferno Titan, he'll be happy to have it down on the table as a 6/6
Sphinx.
body. You know, whatever. There we go.
And there's the Pyroclasm. So that's going to clean up the board a little bit. Getting rid of Mystic, Stoneforge Mystic, and Surtark. Alright. Yep. Those all go away. And looks like Brian's hand is Preordained, Taxian Probe, Mana Leak. So he's been saving that probe for a while, just letting it sit there.
He ups the Jace.
Alright, Fate Seal
Check.
time.
What you got? That's
And
good with me.
just Snap leaves it there. That is always...
That's a bad sign.
Yeah, that is...
And Infect is notoriously weak at dealing with Planeswalkers.
Yeah, I mean, he's got that Inkmoth Nexus to attack Jace, but not that exciting.
Colonnade comes in.
Yep. And he blocks the Exarch with Spellskite, but takes 4 from the Colonnade. And now Brian is just in a really commanding position.
And there's a useless card on top.
An
Josh
island.
draws it, lays it.
Just throws it onto
Boink.
the battlefield. Doesn't need.
Attacks the Jace.
Jace drops the 3 counters.
I mean, I really think that Josh might have tossed this game away when he activated that Tezzeret and put it on the Torpor Orb. His opponent, like...
I don't know. I mean, I think Brian would be in a worse position if that happened. I don't think. I mean, he'd just be at 7 poison instead of 2, right?
No. He'd be dead. He had no answers to it.
Well, wait, what? What do you mean?
If he had put the Inkmoth Nexus and made it a 5/5.
Well, he attacks for 5 poison. That's all that happens.
Right, and then the next turn he dies.
No, when you reanimate Inkmoth Nexus, it becomes a 1/1 again.
Mm-hmm. Okay, yeah, that's fair. That's fair.
So
no, it's always a 5/5.
It loses Infect at the end of the turn.
You're right. It does lose Infect.
So I mean, you've got a 5/5, but I mean,
yeah,
I think Brian
you're exactly right. You're exactly right.
I mean, a 5/5 would have been threatening this game. I mean, make no mistake about it. But that Jace could have bounced
actually,
it.
Brian could be at 9 poison. Because he's been hit twice by the Inkmoth since. Like, they've gone for the Jace instead of...
Right.
Yeah.
Right. All right. I mean, he would be playing differently. He would be blocking with Colonnade.
Absolutely. Absolutely.
Yeah. All right. So there's a probe from Brian Demars. Yeah. So interesting interaction with Inkmoth Nexus for those who don't know. So Inkmoth loses Infect at the end of the turn. So if you activate Tezzeret on Inkmoth Nexus, it becomes a 5/5 with Infect. At the end of the turn, it loses Infect. It's still a 5/5. If you reanimate it the next turn, the 1/1 overrides the 5/5 ability, and it's now a 1/1 with Infect.
Here it comes again at Jace.
All right. So he's taking that Jace down, but doesn't really accomplish a whole lot.
Says go. His life total is fairly low. It's dwindled down.
Let's see.
And just checking again. To the bottom? To the bottom.
Alright, activates that Colonnade. And serves in for 4. Alright, drops Josh down to 7. Brian looking at a hand with another Jason. I think there's 2 mana leaks hiding there.
This is Josh's first draw that was a card that Brian didn't get access to. Is that a Metamorph?
I don't know. Let's see. It looked like maybe it was a Dark Slick Shores to me, but it's hard to say.
Attacks the Jace. I think you're right. He didn't move his hand around at all, and that was definitely a Dark Slick Shores.
Yeah. Yeah, he is. I don't think he's got anything there. And Colonnade's going to come in again for 4 points. Yep, there's Colonnade. Serves in. Drops to 3. Untaps an island.
Keeps his basics handy.
Yeah, just in case. Tectonic Edge, which is a legitimate concern. You don't want to get edged.
3 life.
Alright, he's going to Fate Steel Josh just to make sure nothing tricky is going on.
We did not see Josh Jacobson doing the same thing last time, and it almost cost him.
Yeah,
it's nice to see Brian Demars doing this.
I think Fate Stealing is really important there.
Josh lays a second Spellskite. Not at all useful for him.
Nope. And I think that's game, right?
Yeah,
Brian
pretty
got
sure.
it this turn. Now, it looks like Josh Tabak's going to go down, but we'll get him in here a little bit to talk about his deck, because it's pretty exciting stuff. And I'm curious how his list differs from Kibler's list, how much he's played the deck. Looks like he's going to brainstorm again, just in case. Sure, put 2 cards back. Don't accidentally forget that part.
Jace doesn't cast Ancestral.
Plays Arid Mesa.
Feels like it sometimes.
Only when there are Squadron Hawks involved. Alright. Blocks with his Nexus. Alright. He says sure. Alright, so Josh buys another turn. I mean, I don't know what he could possibly draw.
That's a good question. Tezzeret doesn't do it. Well, Tezzeret can find him a Flight Spellbomb.
Buy a turn.
Mana Leak.
Alright, Mana Leak. Force him to pay 3. Mana Leak.
Mana Leak number 2.
Alright, and that's that. He shows the swamp. That's it. So, Brian Demars takes down Josh Tabak. 2-1. Close matchup. Really interesting decks. Josh had a really bad draw in that 3rd game, the triple Torpor Orb.
Yeah.
But I mean, I think it's probably a favorable matchup for Josh. We only saw Brian win game 2 because he had the combo and he set it up perfectly. He had pretty much just the right cards to pull it off.
Yeah, and Josh didn't respect the fact that he only had 1 piece of insurance against the combo. If Josh had played very slightly differently, it would have been an easy win in game 2.
Well, kind of. I mean, so if he plays that Metamorph, what happens if Brian just casts Divine Offering on the Spellskite and responds?
But he had actually 2 turns previous.